Faisal, you mentioned the beast, and I love this concept. Also, another concept that I don't think is mirrored in the psychological literature, as far as I know. And you know, it's this concept of the beast, the sort of deviation that creates this deviation from the path, and I think it'd be extremely helpful to talk about that in more detail.
Yes, this subject about, you know, the psychotic core is, that I mentioned, is not necessarily what psychology calls psychotic core, but I think it involves so much of what they say and define it a little bit differently. One composition, one piece, one archetype in the human structure that is also not being talked about, you know. Maybe they did, but I don't have the knowledge about, you know, like I don't have the knowledge about the psychotic core as the merged state, union with mother and father. I don't have the knowledge of anybody saying, you know, like this is an archetype of the beast, not Jung, not Freud, not, you know, I haven't heard it defined and articulated in an elaborate way, you know. Maybe they did, but I really don't know. The part of the human structure, you know, we have composition of many elements, you know, ego, superego, different parts of personality, composition. One element, one archetype that's really worth studying, you know, and what I'm going to talk about even just a little bit, you know, glimpses in it. It really is worth 10 days of retreat to go into the depth and the intricacies of it, you know, and it's really worth thesis, PhD thesis, without any really hesitation about how much in it, how much knowledge in it. I hope those who get inspired, you know, take on the flame and continue with it. You know, the beast came to my mind, as I said, from the Bible, you know, and the beast is defined as the Antichrist, you know, and then in religion they mention it as the devil and Satan, and it is always seen as an entity outside, like there is a devil there, there is an angel there, there is a devil there, and this devil has no business except to mislead us, to deviate us from the path, from the virtues, from the grace, from the connection to God, because it has enmity with God. It hates God, you know, and as God has casted it out of heaven, it's gonna mislead us from reaching God again, you know. So it will spoil it for God and God's kingdom. You know, this is the general religion approach and all of that. Let's say that there is a very strong negative emotion that we carry within us, humanity carry within us. You know, there's, for example, fear and anger and all of that. There's an emotion that has hate. The feeling of it is hate. This emotion is not like anger and rage. This emotion is very cold. This feeling is very cold. You know, it's like cold sweat inside. And it is not impulsive, you know. It's not like getting angry and yelling. And that's what I call the alien, you know, that okay. The alien, the reptilian creature jumping. The beast is calm, cold, collective, you know. I don't know, sometimes if you run into some of those people, they scare the living daylight out of a person. They are cool, they are calm, they are calculative, they are intelligent, but heartless, humanless, you know, no affinity, none.
Like sociopathic?
Psychopathic?
Sociopathic.
Sociopathic, I mean, it depends also how you define it, you know. Some of them are leaders, you know.
Yeah.
Are leading our humanity, you know, really. So, yes, they are, of course, but they're really scary by how cold they are inside. Mm-hmm. And the coldness is due to this feeling. Hate is cold. Hate is not hot. Rage, anger, destruction, all of this are hot, but cold, but hate is cold. And this quality in the essential level, there is equivalent to it in the essential level. In the essence level, there are positive essential states and there are negative essential states. Positive essential state, as we said, like love could be golden, compassion could be green, you name it, the quality of it. The negative essential states, one of them is like tar. It feels like some yucky, thick substance, goes in the system. It's bitter, People who received a lot of, or carry a lot of hate, they even smell bitter, They are unbearable to even touch. Their body is cold. There's, it's very toxic. It's the most toxic state that I know of. There are other, like lead, for example, which causes dullness, unconsciousness, really like a lead metal. They say, I don't know, lead butt. Is that what they say in America? But sometimes it's lead head. You feel like I can't open my eyes. My head is so heavy. My brain is so heavy, or my heart is lethargic, so heavy. There is like iron, which is a state of utmost defense. You feel like it's like so hard and so iron. Some people even scream because it gets into like migraine headaches. Iron develop inside that feels so painful. It's a defense. There is another state feels like rubber inside, like tire, like rubber, and that has to do with resistance. It's like, you're resisting. Something comes to you and you push it, it pushes back. There are other states like that, negative states, essence, that are toxic. Most people carry some of that in them, and they carry also some of the positive states. We are not this or that. But some people can go to extremes. Like some people are so defensive, they become iron or become crystallized. Some people are so resistant, they can't go with anything. They are always just, I say no, therefore I am, Some people are poisonous, very poisonous. They don't react, they calm, cold, calculate, and set strategy. A plan for 10 years from now. A plan for, long range. These people have the tar in them. The tar has chilled the warmth of the soul, has deadened the heart and the humanness in the person. This state is also very much associated with fear, with abuse. If a child gets so abused, they might cultivate from the fear. It freezes the blood even. I remember like one of the stories about Saddam Hussein. He had no fear of death. He didn't give a damn about death whatsoever. How could he not fear death? It's normal to fear death unless you're enlightened. He's not. But what happened to him is that when he was a little child, his father will wake him up at 2 a.m, sometimes cold in winter, to ask him to go steal eggs from the neighbor. And the neighbor figured out that somebody was stealing his eggs. So he's waiting with the stick. So sometimes either he breaks the bones of Saddam, or if Saddam doesn't bring the egg, his stepdad will break as well. So he grew up, imagine at 2 a.m, 5, 6 years old, to go and that. He froze inside.
Living a treacherous double bind his whole life.
Yes. So that led to this beast in him that didn't give a damn about humanity. The same thing with Hitler, didn't give a damn about humanity. This quality is absolutely, cold-blooded. I don't know when it originated. Did it originate when we fell from heaven? Did it originate through the fears of evolution? But it exists. And it is in the beginning of the quality itself is power. It's power. And when power is feared or restricted or repressed, it turns into coldness and into hate. Fear is the most dominant aspect that can restrict this power. You beat the child, you hate the child, the power of the child, the exuberance of life in the child gets squashed, gets crushed, and the child might become, like really cold and beastly. Some children are really beastly, something in them is really strange. Most children are so alive and vibrant, but some children are really strange that way. I remember seeing a baby, worked on her 3 hours. She received so much coldness from her parents. She was a baby. There was no direct abuse. There was just merging with the environment, with her mother and her father, who were drug addicts and who were just so much self-hate that when she brought her, for us to work on her, I spent 3 hours working on her. She was filled with tar. And just channeling presence and energy and healing, one layer after another started to lift off. She was dying. She was 3 months old, dying. But somehow through the grace, she released and she's still alive and doing really good. But it was merged state. So I don't know the origin of this. That something happened to the human power and made it collapse and crush. And then it infused with fear, and fear, then it comes into hate. Let me give more concrete example. Like suppose a child get the target with the hate of father or mother, and the father or the mother is always stalking the child, and you see it sometimes happens in a way like really, really inhumane, the father beats up the child, or the mother beats up the child, and you see that they're reacting to the child in a way much more exaggerated than the action that the child did. The child might have spilled the cup of milk or did something, but all of a sudden there is this, rage and anger and hate and, coming at the child. And sometimes one parent target the hate, like a father compete with the son, because the son is getting mother's love, or the mother hates the girl getting father's love. They become stalked by this force in the parents, And some of it become like really severe attacks, and some of it moderate, and some we survive it. But this force was coming from the outside in the beginning. The target of this force of hate is always the inner light of the child. This hate is directed to the point of light of the child. It's directed at the pure being of the child, the absolute and the point of light. Somehow, the origin of it, like there's blame that the point of light was the cause, of the suffering, or the absolute was the cause of suffering, So there is a cumulative hate toward God, toward being, toward the light. This part in the human soul is a very wounded part. Is a part that carries so much hurt, so much shame, so much woundedness. And this part is made of, even though tar is nothing but a black essence that got frozen. Black essence is intuition. It is also like the black absolute, It has knowing and intuition and discernment, So when this gets frozen, it becomes hate for that quality. So when it melts, it can go back to that. So there is hate in the human system toward the light. This is an archetype existing in all of humanity. There is no human being that I know who doesn't have that within them, the beast within them. And the beast in the beginning was as I said, coming from mother or father or environment or culture or whatever, and the child, the child is love, let's say, and goes to mother, for a hug, or father for a hug, and then the mother kicks it or yell at it, or father beats it, or something like that. Then the child gets hurt. Then love comes again. The essence of the child is very powerful. Starts again. They go get. You've seen it, After even being just beaten, they go and hug mom. All of that. So after so much bombardment from the beast of the parent, the child beginning to develop a sense of like, I have to encounter this the same way it's doing to me. So the child begin to internalize the hate. It begin to defend itself by equal force by hating that parent that hates it. Little by little, the love gets diminished, and little by little, defensiveness begin to happen, and strategies, the child begin to strategize how to navigate, how to be safe, how to protect itself, against this negative force that's coming. It's not the only thing, of course, coming from the parents, but I'm talking specifically about the stream of the beast from generation to generation, targeting the life force in the child. The beauty, the intelligence, the love, the creativity, that beast in mother or that beast in father attacks those aspects in the child. If the father is like not so intelligent, the father will put down the intelligence of the child. You're dumb. You don't understand. And if you name it, the story is so varied. So then, little by little, we cultivate this force within us, this intelligence within us, that realizes love is dangerous, openness is dangerous, truth is dangerous, being is dangerous. So this part hides deep, and the deep is in either the Mobius or the solar plexus or the belly center, in the perineum. This is the center of the deep. This is where the under, Annana or, Lilith hide. You see it in the story of Lilith or Annana. That's the beast, that's the Antichrist within us that hates our own light and hates the light in everybody. So when we begin to unfold and we begin to open up more and more, then this mechanism begin to strategize to shut down our unfoldment, to block our progression. The beast is intuitive. It knows that if you walk this way, you're gonna reach the light. So it begins to create all kinds of defenses and resistances and issues. So when you go into the beast, we call it the Black Death, is the most dangerous passage, the Black Death. You need to, I usually tell my student, I don't want you to trust me, but when you go through this passage, I need trust from you. After you navigate it, don't trust me again. Fine. But during this time, you will not be able to navigate it because you are opening to the black essence, you are opening to the black absolute, to the deep radiance, black radiance, all of that. And it's gonna melt the tar in your system. The tar that's frozen gonna melt and you're gonna be toxic. So I tell them to increase their meditation, increase like detoxing, eating good food, breathing, all of those things, and listening to my instruction, because I could see they're going through it. They don't see. And of course, the target will be the teacher or the, the therapist, and they become so skillful and so intelligent, and they use intuition, Sometimes they say something about me, they intuit it, and it's true. Yes, I don't have this result, true, But what does that have to do with you now? You're in the midst of this trouble. Let me help you, then continue. You can leave me, go to another teacher. It's fine. So the beast is such a huge complex The resolution of it is different layers. It's deep layers in the ego. I cannot go over it now, that the ego is like an onion layers, and there are so many layers in it. And one of the deepest defense layers in the ego structure is the layer of the beast. The beast is a defense against annihilation, against destruction. The beast in the origin was a wrathful deity inside that was trying to protect the light. The child, point of light, trying to protect its own survival, its own life. And then this mechanism was the child got exposed to so much hate, so much negativity, that the wrathful deity got twisted. And now the wrathful deity attacks the very light inside. You know? So the resolution of the beast transfers the lower centers into the protection and deities that can help the point of light to walk the walk. But it's a very dangerous, very difficult passage. And it opens up when the absolute opens up. This layer the absolute begin to melt the tar and bring the poisonous feeling, toxic feeling. Then this is one layer about the hate for the truth. Because of the truth, I was hurt. But then deeper than that, there is hurt. The deepest hurt that I know of in humanity is the hurt of the soul, being not just hurt by mother and father. You know, this is I call the divine woundedness. The soul feels like mother betrayed me, father betrayed me, community, everybody betrayed me, because they cannot help it. You know, as you deepen in your evolution, your compassion, your wisdom, your awakening, you reach the level, what the Christ was saying, forgive them, for they not know what they're doing. If they really know what they are doing, they won't attack my life, they won't attack my love, they won't attack my, what the child was offering, and what the soul of the child was offering, Considering, yes, it was limited in terms of the mind was limited, doesn't know how to articulate. The body was limited, doesn't know how to do things, But the soul was not limited. The point of light was abundant. Every house you go to when there is a child, the child is filling the house 10,000 times more than the adults, because it's the body and the psyche is all open, and the point of light is really expansive. So that's the soul feels, yes, mother, father, society, they all wounded me, hurt me, they don't see me. This is the development of narcissism. I'm not seen, I'm not mirrored, I'm not held, and all of those things. But then comes a time when the soul feels, how about you? God, is there God? Is there being? Is there benevolence? Why have you forsaken me? The cry of the Christ on the cross, when he lost faith, when he lost the connection to the divine at that moment, this beast within, because of the immensity of the hurt, cried to God, why have you forsaken me? I understand they forsake me because they don't know what they're doing. They are under the influence of all of those things. But you, so deep in the human soul, in the deepest core of the human soul, there is wound toward the divine one, toward God. Why have you forsaken me? I believe some of the absolutists, in order to avoid this wound, and in order for the beast to mislead them, it has made the absolute as God. And says, now that you have surrendered to your God, you're resolved. And then the teachings comes out warped, distorted. Because the teaching is not addressing the human soul, not addressing the human need. It's talking about the absolute. And the absolute, you can go off in millions of ways. Transcend and this and you name it, But this is about talking to God as an entity, as a higher one, as a divine Lord. Why have you forsaken me? And in that, when the person reaches that, for me, I reached it 10 years after awakening, after enlightenment. I cruise in every domain, you name it. The whole diamond approach, essential domain, was just part of my productivity, really, honestly. I mean, it contributed, but not you won't believe, how much came through that time. I use enlightenment. I use all the essential domains to avoid this unbearable divine woundedness. That maybe God doesn't love me. The beast feeling, I'm so bad, I'm so hated, that even God doesn't love me. And I was surprised. I left the school after 10 years, and I knew that at the school there is no way I could reach this because we were becoming absolutists, and I was already in the absolute 10 years. It didn't answer this part. So when I allowed this part to emerge, I was surprised. I stayed in the dark night of the soul for 1 year. I could see I could go to enlightenment, but I didn't want to go there. I could see I can go to my personality, nirvana and samsara. I didn't want to go there. I just stayed in the abyss, not knowing why. And in that moment, Christmas, I think I mentioned it, deep crying came in my soul. That, why have you, God, do you exist? Why have you forsaken me? I cannot heal me. I even failed enlightenment. I cannot heal me. And that's when I had the encounter with this divine one and feeling the love of that Lord divine, that, like, what are you talking about? You are my begotten son. Oh, wow, that much? I just wanted to say you're bad. That's why I don't, care about you. It was that kind of low feeling in the self, in the psyche, that God doesn't love me. And came how that Lord divine loves us all as his own children. Every point of light is beloved. And that's immense healing for the beast. The beast that was wounded in the soul felt touched by this love. And I felt, this is what I wanted. Like my beast said, how come you didn't say so? I've been waiting 10 years. And of course said, yes, you have to go through all this detour to bring the teaching. If you get this, you might not want to. And since I got it, most of the teaching are not anymore, like my interest. My interest now is to be worshiper. I just go around feeling glory, glory, hallelujah. Look at what is here. What a kingdom, what a majestic, beautiful being. And love to this Lord divine. We are in his hair image, love to them, because there is one also that we all felt being betrayed by, misled by, or rejected by God, God, the divine one. So the healing of the beast comes in the hate part, get healed by the black absolute, and black light and black dimension. It melts the tar, it brings peace and a deep sense of protection by the universe. And the wound heals by divine woundedness. And divine woundedness cannot be gotten by work. That's why I left the school. We became grandiose. We became thinking that, now I know the issue about this and the issue about that, and now we can solve the issue. And that was a lesson in humility, in getting off the grandiosity of the ego, I can make it, to bowing to something we've forgotten, that there is a divine kingdom. And this divine kingdom is running beautifully, majestically, regardless of me trying to upgrade it all the time and top it all the time. It's way beyond anything I can think of or imagine. So the beast is a magnificent journey. It's a whole beautiful episode that is, I feel, is an integral part of the human unconsciousness, in fact. It's an archetype. It has not been addressed how it gets transferred, that the child feels its very soul is being hated. Not because it's doing this wrong or this wrong. They just hate him or hate her. That's how the child takes everything, They cannot differentiate between what they did and between who they are. What they did or what they say, they think it's them.
And then they become bullies.
Then some of them become bullies, or some of them become withdrawn, or some of them lucky, they live moderate life, and they live a very limited life. They're afraid of expansion. The absolute bring expansion. There is the sky is not even the limit. There is no limit. To open to this abundance means the beast of the deep might show up. And that's why everybody lives a limited life under a very severe sense of deficiency. I am not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And then the story also continues into much more intricacy about, maybe we do something else about the soul station. And this is very interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you, Faisal.
What a story.